Morning, folks. Welcome back to another episode of Mike's MMA Picks Fight Morning Quick Card Breakdown Show, brought to you by BetDSI as well as MMA Oddsbreaker. We've got UFC 248 tonight. We head to Las Vegas. Romero, Israel Adesanya, fireworks at the top of the card. Then we got Zhang-Jedrzejczyk taking on Weili Zhang. Should be hell of a fight up top. Also with the co-main. We look at this card. We see a majority of the fights that are expected to finish. We also see that this card has a number of high caliber wrestlers on it. So we'll take that into consideration when composing DraftKings lineups, etc. First fight of the night, let's kick things off. We start in the men's 135-pound division. We've got Cannetti-Batgerel, Mongolian fighter with a 6-2 record coming off of a loss. Heads into this fight with a 2-inch reach advantage over the 40-year-old Guido Cannetti. Guido Cannetti has spent many of his camps, or at least part of his camps, with Team Alpha Male throughout the years. Cannetti, 8,000 in DraftKings plus 110 underdog. The other side of the fight, Batgerel comes in at 8,200 in DraftKings, a minus 130 favorite. Batgerel, 30 years of age, has a kickboxing background. We have seen, if you look up and down his resume, he does have a win over Kai Kara-France a long time ago, 7 years ago. Not very relevant, but we should mention that. This fight, Cannetti's going to come out like a bat out of hell like he usually does. And he's got a few options here in the first round. He could look for takedowns. Alatang was able to have some success in the last fight versus Batgerel. The longer this fight goes, though, Batgerel seems to be more composed. I know that Cannetti was a victim of USADA back in 2017. He'll be turning 41 later this year. If this fight gets out of the first round, Batgerel should take this. I have concerns about the wrestling here. The fight is not expected to go to a decision. Give me Batgerel to win this fight late. Next up, we head to the men's 145-pound division. We've got Emmers taking on Giga Chikadze. Chikadze, glory kickboxing veteran, 7,700 in DraftKings, plus 155 at the betting window. Taking on a Emmers at 8,500, minus 180 at the betting window. Emmers has a fight under his belt this year, 17-4 record, fairly impressive record. But then you look at his losses, and the way he lost to Julian Erosa, the eyes light up because he's fighting a proficient striker here, and Emmers is susceptible to being taken out on the feet. Emmers, you watch the way he fights, you see a lot of Darian Caldwell in him. They are training partners. but Emmers is a Darrion Caldwell light. He likes to mix up the stand-up with the wrestling. I was thinking Emmers would go to a wrestling-heavy game plan in his previous fights, but he seems to enjoy standing up, likes to load up on his right hand. It takes time for that to land and then recoil. Chikadze likes to throw straight punches, was completely worked over by Brandon Davis in the first round, and then towards the end of the fight, Davis was able to land takedowns, and there was a split decision in that fight. Brandon Davis ended up losing to Chikadze, but I got to be honest, I was not impressed with Chikadze in that fight. He does have, definitely has the better stand-up in this bout, and I have concerns. I think this fight is a much closer fight than the odds suggest. Though, give me Emmers here to grind out Chikadze. I liked when I saw against Barbosa in Emmers' last fight to get the arm triangle and to slow cook his opponent. At least we know that he has that skill set, and that is something that Chikadze, I don't think, even though he's with Master Cordero and everybody at Kings, Dariush is on this card as well. I don't think Chikadze's wrestling is going to be up to snuff. But as far as the DraftKings play, though, Chikadze is definitely one of those dogs where I feel like he could be live, and at 7,700 could put up a solid score if he's able to get the finish. Next up, we've got Emily Whitmire taking on Viana. Viana comes in at 8,100, the -130 favorite. This fight is expected to go to a decision at -150. Whitmire, 8,100 plus 110. The odds have been closing slightly on this fight. Whitmire is a quick starter. Viana is as well. So these girls should get right at it. You look at Whitmire's record, 4-3 record. She hasn't beaten anyone of significance, and she's taken losses to Amanda Ribas. She had her moments in that fight, Whitmire did, but she makes mistakes, and then her opponent is able to capitalize on them. I wasn't impressed with her win over Jamie Moyle, who I believe is no longer in the company. Then you look at Viana, though. She got taken out very quickly by Macedo, lost to Hannah Cyphers, and lost to J.J. Aldrich. Aldrich and Cyphers, they are fairly tough opponents. Viana looked to initiate the grappling and was able to have some success in the first 30 seconds against Macedo, but then got armbarred. This fight, I think the odds are correct that it's a closely lined fight, and I've got to be honest here. I think we're going to see Viana, although I know she's a higher caliber grappler, and we haven't seen it on display inside the octagon. Perhaps it's in the training room with the gi on. I think Viana's going to come out here and capitalize on the mistakes that Whitmire makes. I'm not impressed with Whitmire's stand-up. She's a solid wrestler, but she's been choked out a number of times, and she puts herself in positions where she gives up her back, and that's the way I see this fight ending, with Viana locking up a rear naked choke, getting the finish. Emily Whitmire, one thing I just wanted to mention also, as far as narrative goes, when I was taping for Ryzen a couple of months ago, I noticed that Hollywood Case and Whitmire have been in each other's corners, and they've been doing a lot of work together, but I don't think that's going to translate to a victory here. So give me Viana to win this fight. Next up, we have a very hotly contested bout between Deron Winn and Gerald Meerschaert. Gerald Meerschaert, a Rufus Sport fighter with 42 professional bouts under his belt, 32 years of age, black belt, jiu-jitsu, is able to also strike. We saw against Eric Anders last time out. He held his own. I actually thought they could have given Meerschaert the victory in his last bout. 7,900 for Meerschaert, plus 125 underdog. I believe we're going to see a lot of Meerschaert in DraftKings out there. Deron Winn, 6-1 record, 30-year-old. Believe it or not, he is not a young prospect. 8,300 in DraftKings, minus 145 favorite. This fight, you look at Deron Winn, it's debatable how tall he is, anywhere between 5'4" and 5'6". It boggles my mind that somebody who's that size, even though he's built like a bowling ball, that he struggles to make 185 pounds or 186 pounds. But he made weight this time out, lost a controversial decision to Darren Stewart in his last fight. We must mention that he is training partners and has been Daniel Cormier's protege. It was gut-wrenching last time out. I was on Deron Winn, and to hear Cormier during the broadcast booth, the interview that Deron Winn did with Ariel Helwani, if you guys could take a few minutes out of your morning and listen to that, very, very revealing. Deron Winn mentioned a few things. Number one, that he sucks at cutting weight, that has been his downfall his entire life. Maybe he should have chosen a different profession. Number two, he gassed out in that fight. He took responsibility for it. Number three, he mentioned that if I don't beat this dude, talking about Meerschaert, then maybe this ain't for me. That's his quote. So he's putting all of his chips in there, and we've seen him give up on himself in the middle of fights. Granted, he came back in the third round towards the end and made it close against Stewart. He might not have those opportunities against Meerschaert, who's a submission specialist and is going to be looking to tee off on the much shorter Deron Winn. I see Deron Winn being able to get takedowns here, but then I question, what is Deron Winn going to be able to do with these takedowns? He may be able to maintain top position, rinse and repeat. He's gassed himself out in previous fights. During Daniel Cormier's commentary in the fight, Deron Winn mentioned in Ariel's interview that he could feel Cormier saying, "Bro, what are you doing? This isn't you." And I believe it. I believe that. The problem is, though, you have someone who has tremendous talent, and they're looking to transition their wrestling game into mixed martial arts. And then you have a legitimate mixed martial artist from a legitimate gym in Gerald Meerschaert, who's a talented individual. He is an exciting fighter, and he wants this win. When these worlds collide, sometimes you see a fighter like Meerschaert come out with a victory here. And I understand the narrative and why folks are picking him in this spot, but I am going to be picking Deron Winn here. I think this is a very close fight. I think you should proceed with caution from betting perspective, but I'm going to be picking Deron Winn to win this fight and to win a decision. This fight isn't expected to go to a decision at minus 120, but I think Winn is just going to have a lot of success being able to change levels. And also, here's one other thing. Deron Winn was quoted as saying, "I think if I can get this dude against the cage and exchange with him, that will get me a lot of success." And that's what he's going to be looking to do. He's going to be looking to get Meerschaert into a corner and trade. But that is a lot easier said than done. So proceed with caution. The pick for me is going to be Deron Winn there. Apologize for being long-winded, but I spent a number of hours preparing for that one. Next up, we've got the black belt hunter, Rodolfo Vieira, taking on Safarov. This is the same guy who fought Vellante a few years ago at light heavyweight. He's dropping down to 185. Looked decent on the scale. 6,900 for Safarov, plus 450 underdog. Pretty wide line here. Rodolfo Vieira, 30 years of age, 9,300. In DraftKings, minus 625 favorite. The big question here is, Vieira going to get the sub? And I have concerns because Safarov is a junkyard dog out there. He's a Russian fighter. And Vieira, we know, is the highest of levels as far as black belt goes. And he has tremendous accolades. I have concerns also because Oscar Pichota was able to push Vieira to the limit in the second round, and it looked like Vieira was gassing out. We got a great line on Vieira last time out. This time, not so much, but I do expect this fight to end inside the distance. I do expect Vieira to lock up a sub. It's just a matter of when. He's got to get Safarov out of there, because the longer this goes, that gas tank is going to be draining. I do not expect this one to go to a decision, but give me Vieira by sub. Next up, we have men's lightweights. We have a 35-year-old Olympic caliber wrestler, Mark Madsen, taking on Austin Hubbard. Austin Hubbard, 11-3 record. Has been in there with some tough opponents. The Davi Ramos fight was, that was a heck of a debut for him. 7,200 in DraftKings, plus 180 underdog. Mark Madsen, 9-0 record, so he's got an unblemished record. This is another wrestler who is converting to mixed martial arts. $9,000 in DraftKings, minus 210 favorite. He'll get takedowns in this spot, I believe, but what is he going to do with them? That's the question. We have seen great survival instincts from Austin Hubbard. He was put in some really tough spots against Davi Ramos. Hubbard also went into enemy territory in Canada and beat Kyle Prepolek. This fight, I do see it going to a decision. The question for me is, Mark Madsen going to gas out, and is Austin Hubbard going to be able to come on late? Hubbard fights out of Elevation in Colorado. He has a great gas tank. Reminds me of Corey Sandhagen in some regards. But he also he can get sloppy at times. And Madsen will make him pay if he gets sloppy. Madsen should put up a solid DraftKings score as far as takedowns go, but then we also have to be concerned about who's at the helm scoring the fight metric and what are they going to count as significant strikes in this bout. I would be more concerned if Madsen was a partier and didn't take his strength and conditioning seriously and endurance. I hear people out there saying, can Madsen wrestle for 15 minutes? Madsen's been wrestling his entire life. I realize this is mixed martial arts and that he's 35 years of age, but I am leaning towards Mark Madsen getting the victory here. No play for me, but I'm going to be picking Mark Madsen to score a unanimous decision. I think if Hubbard wins this fight, he's going to have to do it inside the distance. Madsen is going to be racking up a lot of points with takedowns. Next up, we head to the men's 135-pound division, where we have Jose Quinones taking on Sean O'Malley. Jose Quinones has turned into a glorified gatekeeper for many of the UFC fighters here. 7,100 in DraftKings, plus 295 underdog. O'Malley coming in at 9,100. We haven't seen O'Malley in quite some time. He's had USADA issues, and fighting just hasn't seemed to be his priority. He's had a number of avenues to gain income. He's coming in as a minus 360 favorite. We saw O'Malley, the way he fought against Andre Sukumta, lots of success on the feet, can grapple as well, fights out of the MMA lab. I'm hoping that he's put on a little bit of size and added some strength to his game. Undefeated fighter, looked great on the Contender Series, but that was a long time ago now. That was back in, I believe, 2017. Quiñones is going to come out looking new. He likes to kick the lead leg early and wants to engage. I think O'Malley's going to oblige in this spot, and we're going to get a firefight on the feet. Usually the embedded series aren't revealing. I don't put a lot of stock into them. But one of the features, they showed O'Malley getting his hair done like they usually do. I have no idea why they follow folks to the barber shops and all that stuff. But he was actually watching some tape, and he was saying that if Quiñones comes in and tries to attack his lead leg early, he welcomes that, and that he is going to extinguish Quiñones. And tough fighter Quiñones. But in this spot, I just don't think he's the caliber of a Sean O'Malley. So Sean O'Malley, got to wonder what type of tricks he's added to his game while he's been out. Can't trust what you haven't seen, but I'm going to be picking Sean O'Malley to win this fight. And he may be putting up a solid DraftKings score because he does throw punches in bunches, and I have a hunch that they'll be counting significant strikes when he's landing. Next up, we head to the welterweight division where we have Alex Oliveira taking on Max Griffin. Max Griffin, tough as nails, 7,800 plus 114. Underdog. Alex Oliveira, 8,400 minus 134 favorite. I was reading that Alex Oliveira just fathered his 11th child. Way to go. 28-1 record. Oliveira, the losses are starting to rack up for him. I was at the fight when he fought Ryan LaFleur, that lead uppercut. Wonder if that's going to be in play here. Oliveira coming in with a 3-fight losing streak. We've seen that if he is grinded upon, the likes of Nicholas Dalby, etc., can wear him out. Max Griffin is, if this fight goes longer into the second, third round, I see Max Griffin may have a lot of success here, but not early. This fight is another one of those fights that's on the cusp of going the distance or not. Oliveira, he's one of my favorite all-time fighters. I love how he leaves everything in there, the fights against Tim Means, etc. He has a very versatile game. He was the larger fighter at weigh-ins here, and one thing I wanted to mention earlier, Emily Whitmire, I failed to mention this earlier, that she did miss weight, and she looked horrific on the scale. Came in, I believe, a pound and a half overweight, and I think that's going to factor into that earlier fight, that horrific weight cut. That's another reason I was leaning towards Viana. But let's get back to this fight. Oliveira, 76.5-inch reach. He has more tools in his arsenal, I believe, and I have a feeling that he is going to be landing the harder strikes, and that he also has a grappling edge. His jiu-jitsu game is underrated. The pick is going to be Alex Oliveira. Next up, heading to another welterweight fight where we have a fighter coming back from a significant layoff and a hellacious beating. Neil Magny returns at 7,600 in DraftKings plus 150. Underdog, 8,600 for Jingliang Li. Jingliang Li, 17-5 overall record. The Leech. The loss against Jake Matthews still stings from a few years ago. We know that Jake Matthews had some success against Jingliang in the wrestling department And that is a path to victory for Neil Magny here. Neil Magny also has great stamina. One thing I like about Li, though, is that he's able to fight through adversity. He's willing to cheat if he has to. And this kid takes no prisoners. I have concerns about the long trip over from China. I am in favor. I speak highly of his hellacious strikes and that he's able to throw the kitchen sink at his opponents. He also has killer instinct, but he's also willing to go out on his shield like we've seen in the past. The Nakamura fight, for instance, didn't tap, got choked unconscious while standing. This fight, he's got to watch out for Magny. When you look at fighters, underdogs out there who have a legitimate shot at winning, Magny, in my eyes, he's a bit of a wild card because he's had the USADA layoff. It seems like in the interviews that he's taken a hard look at himself and tried to address some deficiencies. Can't trust what we haven't seen. Long layoff. I wonder if the USADA issue is going to play a role in this fight. Also, that Ponzinibbio fight, holy cow. He got his legs chewed off and then knocked out. And that was one of those fights I wish his corner threw in the towel. That was tough to watch, man. But I was on Ponzinibbio in that spot, so we cashed there. Here, Jingliang Li, you watch the Zaleski Dos Santos fight. He's coming in with some recency bias. I believe that is baked into the line here. This could be a little bit more closely lined, though. I think Li is going to win the exchanges here. I don't think that Magny is going to be able to have, even though he's got the length and he's got the reach, the jabs, I don't think they're going to be much of a factor here. I think that Li isn't going to respect the jabs of Magny and that he's going to try to walk right through him. It may end up that Li gets taken down here, but I'm going to be picking Li to win this fight. He just has a wider variety of tools, and he also is the hungrier fighter, more durable. Although we've seen Li get knocked down a bunch of times, it's tough to take him out. Give me Jingliang Li to win. Next up, we have a fighter who's shown some chinks in his armor. Benny Dariush taking on Drakkar-Klose. Drakkar-Klose, 7,500 plus 145. Underdog. Klose was kind of exposed in the Tamor fight a few fights ago. Dariush, 8,700. Fairly high price in DraftKings, minus 165. Got to wonder how he's going to pay that off. You have to lock up a submission, which is possible. Dariush has had those chin issues that we spoke of. Drakkar-Klose, impressive win over Christos Giagos. Haven't seen Giagos in a while. Klose, 11-1. So this is a winner we have on our hands here. Klose is seems to have a bully mentality when he's in there, especially at weigh-ins, and the way he fought Diakese, that was impressive. The way he chewed up Diakese's legs. Dariush should come out smart in the first few minutes. The question is he going to wilt late in the fight if he's not able to get the submission victory? I do see the latter rounds, especially the latter portion of round 2 and possibly round 3 going to Klose. This may be a live opportunity if you're making any live plays. Dariush, another concern I have of his, although Klose doesn't throw massive power, Dariush, when he was at Kings and when he's with Cordero and RDA and Gastelum and Chikadze and all these fighters from that camp, they went to war. And I have to wonder through the years how many times Dariush has has napped on the canvas, because he does not look good when he gets clocked. It's tough to watch. This is a fighter who is one of my all-time favorites, and have a huge amount of respect for him. The fight against Vic and many others, he was looking great against Barbosa. In this spot, though, I'm gonna pick Dariush, and I'm gonna pick him to win by submission. In this spot, you can't sleep on his submission game. Dober was having big time success and made one mistake, and Dariush was able to capitalize on that. So give me Dariush to lock up a rear naked choke, find his way to the back. We head to the co-main event of the evening here. We got Weili Zhang taking on Joanna Champion. Jędrzejczyk 7,300 plus 155. Zhang 8,900 minus 185 at the betting window. Props to those who were able to lock up minus 130, minus 135, minus 140. This has shot up here. Looks like the value may be on Joanna Champion here. Joanna, the losses to Rose seem like a thing of the past. The win over Michelle Waterson looked solid in that fight, but now you're taking on a fighter who can close distance here, who isn't afraid to walk through the fire, who does have a solid ground game and is the much stronger fighter. Someone who throws power, someone who I don't think we've seen the entire game, and you can't trust what you haven't seen of Weili Zhang, but in this spot, I think we're going to see Weili Zhang surprise a lot of people. I think people are underestimating her in this spot. I think Joanna, she looked phenomenal on the scales. She has tremendous range finders. She's great in the clinch. She has great takedown defense. She's able to, what's even more promising is Joanna's get-up game and how it demoralizes opponents. Even if they're able to take her down, she's able to get right up against the cage, find her way out of there. And in this spot, I think that's where the fight is going to be won and lost, is against the cage. I think we're going to see some exchanges against the cage while Joanna is trying to work her way back up from being taken down. And I think this fight is going to hit the ground at some point. There was a lineup there of Zhang by submission. I believe it was plus 875, something like that. That may be worth a sprinkle. Zhang, this is a fight where Joanna is trying to get into her head. I don't think it's working. This lady, Zhang, has made the trip across the globe. That's a narrative. She's been here for 8 weeks now. I don't think that's going to play a factor in this fight. The longer this fight goes, Joanna usually picks up the pace. I suspect she'll try to do that. Something that a lot of folks aren't talking about is Joanna's ability to take a punch. And that's another difference maker in this fight for me. I want to see what happens when Joanna's landing at range and Zhang is closing the distance, if she's respecting the power or if she's walking right through it. And also, how is Joanna absorbing those strikes? She's got great striking defense. And I think that Zhang is going to be extremely accurate here, and she's going to make the opportunities count. Closely lined fight. I know the odds have been widening lately. I wouldn't have played anything over minus 150. on the Zhang side. I understand if you're getting plus 175, plus 180 on Joanna, but give me Weili Zhang to defend her belt in this matchup. Next, we head to the main event of the evening. We've got Israel Adesanya, last stylebender, taking on Yoel Romero. Romero, 13-4 record. Last time Romero was finished back in 2011. $7,000. You look at these prices in DraftKings for Joanna and for Romero. Very, very, very cheap prices. Will they pay off in DraftKings? $7,000 for Romero, plus 190 at the betting window. Then you've got Adesanya, 9,200. Odds have been closing a little bit here, minus 235. Favorite at BetDSI, 30 years old. For Israel Adesanya, Romero, we hear that he's 42 years old. Debatable. The Costa fight, I picked Costa to win in that fight. The Whitaker fights, I picked Whitaker to win those fights. The Weidman fight, I thought Weidman was going to do a number on Romero. He had a solid first round. Weidman did, and then you saw what happened there. And that's what I have concerns. Israel Adesanya, I was at his fight against Brunson. His composure is incredible. His game plan, remarkable. They at City Kickboxing have done a tremendous job coaching him up. Very cerebral in there. Doesn't make many mistakes. Has learned from every opportunity inside the octagon. Romero looked phenomenal on the scale. Scale doesn't win you fights. Romero has talked a great game. Romero has the Olympic caliber wrestling, something we rarely see him use. I really wonder, because he has such a wrestling advantage here, and he may potentially gas himself out trying to go for a takedown, but I see this fight playing out on the feet. I was listening to Adesanya's coach and saying that they welcome and they expect Romero to be explosive and try to lure Israel in. And when you know that game plan is coming, we may see a boring fight for the first few rounds where Israel is just staying at distance and winning a point battle, similar to the Anderson Silva fight early. But in this case, he knows how dangerous Romero is. Everyone does. But he wants to be a showman in there. And that's where this fight is going to be interesting. You know the explosive nature of Yoel Romero is coming. It's just a matter of can you get out of the way of it and can you counter? And we know Israel can do that. So I understand why the line is the way it is. This is the third time we've seen Romero get his shot where he's come so close and the judges could have given him the win in previous bouts. And the wars that he was in against Whitaker, it is so hard to put him out. And people break themselves trying to end Romero. And this is a fight that is going to showcase how great Adesanya is. And if he can't do it, then I'm speechless. So here's the way I see things happening in this fight. Adesanya coming out looking like he's a world beater, possibly hurting Romero, chasing him against the cage. Looks like Romero's hurt. Romero lashes out and catches Adesanya. I'll be picking Romero to win this fight. though I understand the line and how Adesanya is the much more skilled striker. He's great at staying at range, and I know how much he wants to prove how great he is. And he is a great fighter. But I just have a hunch that Romero, that his power is going to be too much at one point during the fight. That's going to be the difference. So I'm going to be picking Yoel Romero to shock the world here. Dangerous spot, but I'll be picking Romero. All right. Great night of fights ahead. UFC 248. I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. I want to thank BetDSI as well as MMA Oddsbreaker. Also, in the future, you'll be able to find some of my premium picks at the MMA Oddsbreaker premium site. Not yet, though, but go check that out. I know we've got a few other things up on the site there. You can follow me at MikesMMAPicks on Twitter. You can also follow me at CapperTech as well as BetMMA.tips. I want to wish everybody a tremendous fight day. This is going to be phenomenal. The heart's already racing. 1 cup of coffee in, ready to go. Remember, folks, go get what's yours. This is your time. Make these opportunities count. Let's do it.